The pirate radio ship, Radio Caroline, went back on the air today, pumping out pop music for the first time legally. Its owners have been granted their one and only application for a 28-day broadcast licence in honour of the station's 28th birthday. But you'll have to go to Dover to hear the station because it's been marooned in the harbour since being salvaged from the Goodwin Sands last year. Robin Gibson reports.
27 minutes away from 8 o'clock on this Tuesday morning, checking out the weather.
28 years on from Caroline's first incarnation as a radio pirate ship, and the atmosphere on board the Ross Revenge at times looked and even sounded much like the 60s. But today's anchorage was Dover Harbour, and for the first time the pirates were radio legal.
One almost feels that you're doing something wrong, but in actual fact it's all perfectly legal. But it still has that element of the unexpected about it.
Free radio on Caroline has been anything but plain sailing on the various ships which have housed the station. The Mi Amigo sank in 1980, while the current ship Ross Revenge survived the hurricane but ran aground on the Goodwins in November when her anchor chain snapped.
We spent a very frightful, uncomfortable 3 hours on the sandbank before we were rescued. And everyone on board, there were 6 persons on board at the time, we did think we were going to die.
Fans and supporters have raised £22,000 for the salvage of the ship. And going on air today after the grant of a 28-day legal licence was mostly a labour of love. Following this flirtation with legal radio, there are plans for full repairs and more radio broadcasts, this time from Chatham Dockyard. After that, say the pirates, they hope they can take their chances again back at sea. The Department of Trade said tonight it discourages anyone from broadcasting illegally because of interference to legitimate radio services such as police, ambulance and Coast Guard.
Radio Caroline goes back on the air tonight, more than 2 years after it was closed down after a raid at sea. The former pirate broadcasters are in Dover to celebrate the station's 28th birthday. But this time the pirates have permission. Lloyd Bracey reports.
On 101.8 FM, this is Radio Caroline back on the air.
The revenge of the Ross Revenge. The station they couldn't sink is back, with its own blend of the sound adored by a generation.
Lots of great music.
Just 6 months ago, Caroline's broadcasting days seemed to be over. Wedged on a sandbank, silent since a raid by the authorities 2 years earlier.
There was no audio equipment in here, just the woodwork. They took everything out of all of the studios on the boat. It was just an empty shell.
But the rusting trawler was salvaged and brought to Dover. Somehow they raised enough money to replace all their gear, bought a temporary broadcasting licence, and they're broadcasting to the people of Dover from midnight.
Well, look, this boat has been through all sorts of difficulties, some natural disasters which we don't mind about, and some things which were visited upon us which we do mind about. And that's one reason why we are determined always to come back to make a statement. But also we're very proud of the ship because it has no right to still exist, really, what it's been through.
Well, it was the up-to-date music which the BBC didn't produce.
It was lively. It was fun. It wasn't so boring.
After a month of round-the-clock radio, they'll move to Chatham and do it all again. Caroline is back, and this time behaving. Lloyd Bracey, Coast to Coast, Dover.